Rika, clinical psychologist. Sorry, I'm a clinical psychologist practicing at Chiromo Hospital Group. Let me put up the slides so that I can show you what I'm talking about when I say Chiromo Hospital Group, for those who may not have visited us. Right, so there we go. That's Chiromo Hospital Group. I sit at the Upper Hill Medical Center where we have the wellness department. The wellness department is more like an outreach arm of Chiromo Hospital, and we are the ones who are tasked with bringing mental health awareness to organizations, to churches, to schools, wherever the need arises. So our head office is at Bustani, Lavington. We also have a smaller branch in Lavington as well at the Braeside area. And we do have one branch in Westlands and a branch in Nyali, Mombasa. So, as Chiromo Hospital Group, we are purely a mental health facility. So, what do? We provide dignified quality mental health care, and we have as a mission to pursue excellence in the delivery of mental health services by adhering to evidence-based practices. Those are some of our core values: respect, honesty, innovation, and reliability. And in the space where there's still so much stigma surrounding mental health, our tagline is recovery in dignity. So today, our topic really is parenting and mental health. We want to understand what is this whole issue about parenting, where does mental health come in, and how do we keep ourselves sane and sober as we parent in the current generation. And to start us off, I want us to look at this bit of introduction, talking about parenting being one of the most rewarding, yet many parents will attest it's also it's rewarding yet demanding. You know, especially for parents who have newborn babies, sometimes the babies are up all night with colic. They graduate from babies to toddlers, they move on to being teenagers, and you're not sure who this person living under your roof really is because of the mood swings which teenagers will exhibit from time to time. And even when your children leave your house and even are beyond campus, you are still parenting them. You're still calling them to find out how are you doing, even when they are married. You're still finding out how they are coping with life. So, of course, with all that, because of the enormity of the task, there could be a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. You may find yourself suffering from burnout and possibly very poor mental health. And we will look at all that. So, in a nutshell, what we are saying is that it is important then for parents to prioritize their own mental health, not only for their individual well-being, but also as they parent their children. So I looked at a bit of a research where parenting is concerned, and some data shows that about 33% of parents report high levels of stress as compared to 20% of other adults who do not have children. And in that particular research, again, 48% of parents said that most of their days, their stress is completely overwhelming. And if you compare to other adults who do not have children, their stress levels are at about 26%. So, what is parenting? It's good to ask ourselves when I talk about parenting, not to take it for granted that you know what you're talking about, but to define what is parenting. And I'll read straight from the slide: raising, promoting, supporting the physical, emotional, social, and cognitive development of a child. And this is across the lifespan. So this means that you're talking about from conception up until goodness knows when is when you are parenting. Of course, at some point, there's a little bit more intensity. And at some point, when especially there's the empty nest, the children have left the home and they're working, living separately from yourself, then the parenting is not as intense. It's good to also know if you've questioned yourself and your skills as a parent, that you can actually acquire better parenting skills and you can also improve on what you already have. So this is quite basic that the responsibilities that we have, fundamentally is food, shelter, clothing, and we've also added healthcare. So basically, when you're a parent, these are some of the basic needs that you must provide for your children. But then there's another role of parenting, and I've looked at about four of them. Number one, when you call yourself a parent, then you become a teacher automatically. The first 5 years of any child, they are a foundation for brain development. So the parent becomes, or the caregiver at that point in time, becomes the primary educator. What moments do you create? What memories do you create with your child? Do you, for example, take a walk with them? Do you have conversations with them? Do you get them to help you clean up, the dishes, the little ones, move the plates from the dining table to the kitchen? The first 5 years, are you singing to them? Are you talking to them even as they're babbling? Because you are the one who are educating that child. So the first 5 years are very, very important, and every parent or caregiver at that point in time is a teacher. So the second role of the parent is to become a coach. So around the ages of 7 to 14, the children's characters are getting formed. So at this point in time, the parent has already identified my child can play the violin. My child looks like he can play football. My child is very good at creativity. So as a parent, then at that point in time, you become a coach. So you identify a skill and you focus on encouraging the child to grow that skill. Then at some point, you also become a mentor. Around the age of 15 to 16, developmentally, children become closer to their peers than to their parents. They are going through a crisis where they're trying to carve out an identity for themselves. Who am I? They experiment with a lot of things in life with their the support system. They experiment with, for example, ideas about politics, and you find themselves really having taken a lot of risks. Why? Because they're trying to carve out some sort of identity for themselves. So at this point in time, the parent or the caregiver becomes a mentor. So you're more playing a role of advising and guiding, but not dictating to them. And we will see where communication around this point in time becomes very, very important. So around the age of 21 or thereabout, then we are assuming that they become independent. They probably moved on to campus. So this is where the parent becomes the cheerleader. So they stand with them as they go through campus, they go through their first job, and the parent is there cheering from the sidelines. Remember, in all these, you will at one point or the other find yourself, even at this age, still being a mentor, still being a teacher, which is where we are saying that parenting is a lifelong journey. It never comes to an end. It's only the intensity that kind of decreases a little bit. So you'd want to ask yourself as a parent, what parenting style have I been using, or what is my parenting style? And remember, your parenting style, like we will see, is influenced by a lot of factors. But first of all, let us look at what parenting styles are there in existence. And remember, even as you're parenting your child, it could be from a two-parent family, it could be from a single parent family, children's children. So as long as you're a caregiver or you're a parent, then you need to understand what your parenting style is, because it has an impact on the children that we are raising. So it differs from one person to the other, but primarily we have four parenting styles. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So we have primarily four parenting styles. So we have number one, there is what is called the permissive parenting style, and this is usually child driven. The parent, we rarely give or enforce rules. If, for example, you go to a supermarket and you look at this child who is asking for this toy car, who is asking for this latest digital gadget, and the parent is there trying to negotiate with them, telling them, oh, we do not have the money for this. But the child throws themselves on the supermarket floor and they cause a huge tantrum. So, what does the parent do to avoid the embarrassment, to avoid the conflict? They overindulge the child. So, if that has been your style of parenting, then we say you are a permissive parent. With the gadgets that we have nowadays, the phones, the tablets, you will find that most parents are struggling with telling their child, you can only have your gadget for so many minutes or so many hours. But if the child raises a tantrum or starts sulking or starts crying, then you as a parent says, okay, you can continue playing your games on your computer, on your gadget, until the time the child wants. So you become a very permissive parent. Then we have the neglectful parenting style. Now, here, the parent is not involved, they're completely absent, they're very indifferent. So anything comes, anything goes, and the child is left to fend for themselves, and the parent is completely absent and does not really care. These are the parents who will not bother to check your child's diary. You'll not be involved in what the child is doing. If someone were to ask you who is the best friend to your child, what is your child's favorite color, what is your child's favorite meal, you barely know your own child. You do not engage in what is going on in their life. You become very neglectful. Now, that is another parenting style. Then we do have what we call the authoritarian parenting. Now, most of us, if you're in my age bracket, 40 and going upwards, were brought up by parents who were very authoritarian. It was their word. Their word was the law. So they would just need to look at you and their eyes would communicate and you'd know what that look meant. So these are parent driven. They set very strict rules and there's punishment. There's usually just one way communication. It's my way or the highway. So you become an authoritarian kind of a parent. Then we do have what most psychologists and psychiatrists and mental health experts agree is the preferred parenting style, which is the authoritative parenting style. Now, here, the child and the parent come together to discuss whatever the issues are in the child's life. And there's democracy. And they agree, well, you have a curfew, you're supposed to be back in the house by 4 p.m. If you don't come back by 4 p.m., what do you want us to do? And the parent and the child agree there are going to be consequences. And the consequences are enforced. So it's very democratic. So it's a warm kind of parenting, warm environment. The child feels safe when they are in the presence of the parent. So there's psychological safety where the parenting is concerned. So ask yourself, take a deeper look at your parenting style and find out, am I an authoritarian kind of a parent? Am I a permissive? Am I a neglectful? Or am I the authoritative kind of parent? Now, remember, this also cuts across. You could be an authoritative kind of a parent, and then you find that your partner or the other caregiver is permissive. And children are very, very sharp. They will know daddy is very authoritative, but mommy is very permissive. So they will know, what can I do when I need whatever and get away with it? I will go and talk to mom. Why? Because mommy's way of parenting is very permissive. So it is important that even as you parent, you come to a consensus, you come to an agreement that, yes, this is my parenting style, this is your parenting style, but how do we parent these children who are our shared responsibility? If we go to the next slide, we want to look at what influences your parenting. You as a parent, what influences your parenting? How did you even come to the point where you decided, I am good enough, or I have enough skills, or I'm mature enough to be a parent? Parent. Look, all right. I think someone had put something on. So if you look, for example, your personal background and your past, childhood memories, how were you raised? How did your parents parent you? Now, what again are your values and your beliefs? Do you live, for example, by we have this set of values in this house, we pray together, in this house, we go to church, we go to the mosque. What values and beliefs do you live by? Do we believe, for example, in this family that it's okay for us to take alcohol in a measure? It is okay for us to use whatever substances. So, what values and beliefs do you have within your family? And then also, what is the level of your mental health? How well do you know yourself mentally that you can say, I am mentally healthy to become a parent? Or do you realize, for example, when you're struggling with your mental health and tell yourself that today, the way I am feeling, I need to keep a distance from my children. Why? Because my mental health is not in a good space to show up as a parent. So it is important to ask yourself as you're parenting, what are the things that influence me? Remember, we have a lot of historical things, what we call adverse childhood experiences that we may have gone through, which we are now passing on to our children. We call it intergenerational trauma. So you went through something growing up with your parents, and because you have not been able to resolve it, you find yourself transferring it to your children. And sometimes it's patterns, it's habits that you recognize and you want to break them, but you find yourself somehow still passing them on to your children. And then your children, because that is how you parented them, then they will parent their children the same way you are parenting them. So realize the importance of asking yourself what influences my parenting. So there is that how your past shapes your style, repeating patterns. You may also find yourself trying to break cycles. If your past was very harsh, very strict, very cold, you may find yourself now choosing a gentler or more open kind of parenting. You may also be the parent who is always overcompensating. Maybe growing up as a child, you grew up deprived. Maybe there was poverty. But when you come into adulthood and you become a parent, then you overcompensate to your children. You're thinking, me, I lacked shoes when I was going to school. You buy your child 10 pairs of school shoes. You said you lacked, maybe you did not have you never were taken out when you were growing up as a child. So you find yourself all the time, you're taking your children out, you take them to galitos, you take them to go and play computer games, you overcompensate. So you're also not doing things in a measure, you're not being balanced, and you're not realizing that it's actually your past which is affecting you in terms of your current parenting. Then you may also find yourself sharing the stresses that you have from your past. If you do not resolve family traumas, fears that you experienced growing up, you may find yourself being very anxious that the same things that happened to you in childhood might happen to your children. So you become very hyper protective, very hyper vigilant, always wanting to know where are your children, who are they with, what are they doing, what time are they coming back home. So you also now tend to become a little bit on the other side, over the top, so to speak. So, what influences your parenting again will go to the characteristics of your child. And you realize you have, for example, if you have three children, each child has a different temperament. And you may tell yourself or speak with your partner or the other caregiver and saying, the firstborn child was so easy to parent. You know, they took to life very easily, but the second one is so complicated. Why? It's because they have different temperament. Again, when it comes to the age of the children, you realize that, you know, babies may need more care, the teenagers may need more time and consistency, the in-betweens may neither be here or there, but also the age and the stage of the child will determine how you are parenting. If you have a child who has special needs, for example, they may have been diagnosed with something like autism, they may be having Down syndrome, then of course that one requires more focus, not only for yourself, but also for the people who are helping you raise up the child. Now, the other things that will influence your parenting are the social and cultural environments. What happens in your community? What does the society expect of you as a parent? Does the society right now expect that you can discipline my child and you're my neighbor, and I will be okay with that like it happened in the past? That is a norm which has kind of gone away with the traditions of old. What do I mean? Growing up, you'd have the neighbor discipline your child. And by the time your child was coming to tell you the neighbor has pinched them, you are also likely to add a few more pinches of your own. And you did not even ask the neighbor, why did you do that to my child? But right now, that has changed. If you want to end up in court, then you go about trying to discipline the children of your neighbors. Do you have a support system? If, for example, you live in a place where you have access to your grandparents, you have access to your aunties, to your to your nephews who can come and sit with your children, for example, when you're not available, or just going through something and you have some social capital in terms of family and friends who can be there for you when you're experiencing something like a family crisis. And then, of course, right now there's so much happening on the digital spaces, so you're able to research on child psychology. If, for example, I see my child is having this temperament, how do I go about helping them? And you're able to quickly research. So that has also influenced how we are parenting. Then also family differences, you may find that your parents, not the grandparents, may also be a little bit giving when it comes to managing their grandchildren. So you need to set boundaries, for them to know that this is what is acceptable when it comes to parenting and this is not acceptable. So finding a balance. So all these things will influence your parenting. Now, we've talked about your mental health, and it is good for us then to define what is mental health. And when it comes to mental health, you only need to look at four parameters. We say the World Health Organization definition that mental health is a state of well-being whereby an individual, number one, realizes his or her own abilities. Are you realizing your full potential? We would receive report cards at the end of the school term, and the teacher would write down there, you're scoring 60% in history, whereas you have the ability or the potential to score 80%. So you need to ask yourself in life, are you showing up at 60% in whatever aspect, at work, as a parent, as a partner? Are you showing up at 100% or at 60%, at 80%? Because if you are not realizing your full ability or potential, then already there is an issue with your mental health. Number two, are you coping with the normal stresses of life? When that teenager you're parenting looks you in the eye and does not look down when you look at them and they're asking you, why can't I go out and play with my friends? And they're kind of being confrontational and you become so angry you slap them across the face. Are you coping with the normal stresses of life? The normal stresses are being bringing up a teenager with all their emotions, with all their defiance. Are you coping well with that stressor? If you're not coping well, then again, your mental health could already be compromised. Number three, are you working productively? At the end of the day, are you able to say, I did so much? Are you able to quantify? And number four, are you making any contribution to your community? When you're absent from family gatherings, when you're absent from work, when you're absent from the church, you're absent from the mosque, do people realize that something did not go went undone because Victoria was not there, or something was not done as well as it would have been if Victoria was there, meaning that you have been making a contribution to your community. So this is purely the definition of mental health when we talk about mental health. You have mental health just the same as you do have physical health. Now, it is very important that you have sound mental health because it helps you to connect, to have positive relationships. It helps you to empathize with other people. It helps you to function because you're able to gain an education, to make a living, to learn new skills. It also helps you to cope. When your mental health is at an optimum level, you're able to deal with stress, to adapt to change, to make complex choices, and it also helps you to thrive. You're able to find purpose in life. You're able to realize your own abilities and to feel good about yourself and about life in general. So it is very important that you have sound mental health. Now, mental health is not on a continuum. We do not say that you're either mentally healthy 100% or mentally ill 100%, but it exists on a continuum. If you look at it, at some point you may feel you're excelling mentally, other times you're thriving, sometimes you're surviving, other times you're completely struggling, and at some moments you are in a crisis. Now, from what we have seen when talking to most audiences, most people are between surviving and thriving. We would that all of us be excelling, but that may not be the reality of life. So instead of surviving, hopefully we can get people to a place where most of them are thriving. So we have said that you have mental health, same as you do have physical health. Now, in the same breath, you have mental illnesses, same as you have physical illnesses. And mental illnesses are illnesses of the brain. They negatively affect your mood, they affect your thinking, and they also affect your behavior. We did a research as Chiromo Hospital Group and discovered that about 25% of outpatients who go to Kenyatta, who go to Nairobi, who go to wherever, whichever hospital, may be there for a physical illness, but they also are showing up for an undiagnosed mental illness. And I'll explain this further down the slides. So you may turn up in a a health facility, and you go there, you're having a stomach ailment, you're having a headache, which is not, going away despite the medication. But primarily, what is not being diagnosed is a mental health crisis that you are experiencing, but which is showing up as a medical emergency. So, what are the mental health challenges of the parents? Constant stress and anxiety. You're always stressed. When the children are in school, you're stressed, especially if they're in boarding school. When they close over the holidays, again, you're stressed. What are they up to in the house? What are they doing? So parents are constantly on a high alert. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. There is a lot of financial responsibilities. You're trying to have work-life harmony, and you're trying to provide the best for your children. So you're even thinking about the future, my child's health, my child's education. So you're always on a constant level of anxiety. Now, what is stress? Stress is when you have so many demands, but the resources are limited. Now, I did mention that most of us will be in a medical facility with headaches or with stomach issues, whereas what we are suffering from is actually the symptoms of stress. Now, if you look at this particular slide, you will see that sometimes when you are stressed, you will have, not sometimes, when you have chronic stress, and this is stress that you're experiencing every day, then your immunity becomes suppressed. And when your immunity is suppressed, then you become very susceptible to infections. So surprisingly, you may find yourself having skin breakouts. You have a skin condition. So what do you do when you have a skin condition? You go and visit a dermatologist. And what do? They give you a cream for your skin to cure the breakout. But you apply the cream, you go to one dermatologist, you go to the second dermatologist, but the condition is not clearing. What is the real problem? It is the stress that you have accumulated. You may find that when you're stressed, you again have what we call gastrointestinal issues. Why? Because there's a connection between your gut and your brain. So you go, you get tested for H. pylori, for amoeba. Finally, your doctor writes down at the bottom, see a psychologist or see a psychiatrist. Why? Because it is not medical, it's not a physical condition, it is actually what is going on in your brain that is triggering the gastrointestinal issue. You may even find yourself suffering from hair loss, alopecia. Why? Because of the stress that you are experiencing. Then you find yourself in a place where you become depressed, low mood, low energy, a lot of irritability, your sleep patterns change, you find yourself sleeping too much or too little, you find yourself having very negative thoughts, you become very isolative, you become the person at the work environment that other people avoid. Why? Because they never know what is your mood when you get up. So all these is simply because of your state of stress and anxiety as you parent. Sleep deprivation and fatigue. Look at this guy sleeping there. Maybe he has a newborn, or maybe he has wild teenagers in the house, or maybe he has children in campus, he's paid for them school fees, but maybe they've drifted off into using substances. So he has a child who has become a perennial alcoholic, and that is all about parenting. And remember, the statistics are not out there. The statistics are with us. We are the ones who are having those statistics of children who have probably gone out there and really, really caused us as parents a lot of worry and a lot of mental health issues. So sleep deprivation and fatigue, and it means that when you go to work, then you do not show up at 100%. And we did say, if you are not realizing your full potential, already your mental health is compromised. Social isolation. If, for example, you do not have a strong support system, you're at home taking care of the children, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom for a period of time, you may become very, very isolated. And loneliness can actually kill. If you do your research, it shows that people are dying because of loneliness. So we all need some social capital. And when you get to a place where you become a parent and you're in the thick of it, you can become very isolated. All of us want to be perfect parents. We want to be the parents whose children score very good grades, go to very good schools, do very amazing careers, get very amazing jobs. So we want to be perfect parents. We do not want to be the parents to children who have become, or they have gone out there. Maybe they're using cigarettes, maybe they're using marijuana, maybe they've gotten pregnant before the right time. So we want to be perfect parents, and we do not want to be seen as failures in any way. Then again, there is now the issue of social media, a lot of comparison, social comparisons. There are these parents who are doing so well, so we find ourselves comparing with them. Parental guilt. We feel that maybe we are working too hard, spending too much time at the office. We basically have no time for the children, no time for the family. So this can lead to a lot of mental health issues. And when you have parental guilt, you need to remind yourself that perfection is not the goal, but presence is. Am I creating time for my child? You also need to show yourself some level of compassion. Compassion is feeling for yourself that, yes, I am trying to do the best for my child. So most of us struggle with parental guilt. And remember, the hours again that we are spending working is trying to create a better life for our children, probably better than what we all had. So we will still struggle with that parental guilt. In the midst of all this, we may also be straining our relationships. For those who may be married, you may be having a lot of struggles with your parents, with your spouses, with your partners. You do not have time for each other. Maybe you're also disagreeing over parenting styles. There's the financial stress. You're suffering from lack of communication. So you find yourself constantly in conflict with your partner or the other person who is helping you do the caregiving. It could also be relationship struggles with your parents, the grandparents of your children. It could also be relationship struggles with your child. You are not getting along. They become wild. They're not listening to you. So a lot of relationship struggle. And then also loss of identity. You become a parent, you're a caregiver, you kind of have no time for your own things, for your hobbies, for social connection. So sometimes you struggle to understand, who am I? I may, yes, be this person working for this organization. Yes, I am a parent, but really, who am I? Does parenting, is that the only role which defines me? Then there's a lot of modern social pressures trying to contain our children. There's a lot of issues with digital spaces, cyberbullying, and we want to protect our children from these modern social pressures, even as we find ourselves also trying to navigate social media. Sometimes we are so distracted. Your child is talking to you, but you're there trying to upload your status, trying to read, I don't know whose status, or trying to catch up with social media and all what is happening in the social space. So there's also what is called the bidirectional loop. Your mental distress as a parent can now impact child behavior, and then that child behavior will now impact on how you're parenting. So again, your stress levels go higher. So it is important that you understand that your own mental distress or your own psychological distress will impact on how the child is going to behave. If I come home and I'm so tired, so worn out because my boss, was not so kind to me, I may come and find myself doing what we call projecting on my children. What we say is you're bleeding on people who have not hurt you. So you come home, and because you're not able to cope with the stressor, which is the work environment, you come and project on your children. You come and project on other people within the home environment. Then they project it back on you. Why? Because they're not the guilty party. So it becomes a loop which is unending. So there is an impact on poor parental mental health on the children. They are affected in terms of the emotion, in terms of the psychological development. If you, as a parent, are struggling with mental health, then your children may also develop behavioral issues. Sometimes it is defiance, sometimes it is anxiety, sometimes they also get into a place where they get depression. If the parent is not modeling healthy coping mechanisms, because yes, we are all going through stressors, but how are we coping? If I, as a parent, are telling my child, you should not take alcohol, but when I am stressed, I take alcohol and I come home and the children can see I've been from taking alcohol, then it becomes very difficult for me as a parent to model the right kind of behavior. So it is again important for us to understand what is the impact of parenting on my mental health as a parent. So, how do I maintain good health as a parent? Number one, I must prioritize self care. Now, self care is not selfish. You can only give what you have. For example, taking time to exercise by yourself, taking time to do some meditation, reading something that you like, or listening to a podcast, it will help reduce stress. Even walking for maybe 30 minutes a day will release what we call the endorphins, which are the feel good hormones, and they do support your mental health. So, number one, parents, prioritize self care. Number two, seek social support. If you have a partner, it is important that you have open communication channels so that when you're going through those rough patches in life, whether it is because of work or because of parenting or because of other personal issues, you're able to have someone to talk to. It could also be a close friend. It could be a parenting support group, especially for parents who may be having children who have special needs. It is important that you do not struggle by yourself, but join a support group where you have people to share experiences. And that way you will know that your experience is not unique, but there are others who are going through the same thing. Dynamics may be different, but you could learn a thing or two on how to manage whatever phase of parenting you are at. So seek social support. Number three, there is what we call practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness means being alive in the moment. We talk about stress management and mindfulness, it is about having techniques to manage stress. Is it listening to music? Is it going for a swim? Is it taking coffee with a friend? Mindfulness is about being alive in the moment. Can I breathe? Can I taste the food I'm eating? Can I sense what is going on around me? And these will help you manage overwhelming emotions. Sometimes it's just about taking a deep breath, about counting 1 to 10 and trying to manage the anxiety, the stress that I am experiencing. And these will help you prevent frustrations from escalating, especially if you're dealing with difficult children. Remember, we said that sometimes it could be the temperament of the child. And it is good for you as a parent to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Because it could be some of the things that you also have as a parent. So you have passed on some genetic material to your child, and they're very difficult. But even you as a child, you are probably difficult at that particular age. So before responding to the stress that they are showing around your space, then try and take a few deep breaths, try and introspect, tell yourself, this is how I was as a child, and this is how I navigated it. And then that will prevent your frustrations from escalating because you will see yourself in this little person who is standing before you. And you'll help them transition because you know what it probably caused you. Letting go of perfectionism. Nobody is perfect. There is no parent who is perfect. There's no child who is perfect. There is no parenting that is perfect. So if you have made some mistakes along the way, trust me, you will still make other mistakes. So learning that you will make mistakes along the way is what is going to help you be able to move on to the next level of parenting without feeling that you are a failure. Then we do have also setting boundaries. You need to say no to unnecessary commitments, especially if you want to have what we call work life balance or work-life integration or harmony, then you need to set boundaries. What is setting boundaries? It is being a place where you have healthy boundaries, where you're able to say no without guilt, being able to tell someone that I'm not able to come for that function because I need to spend time with my family. I am not able to take on this extra workload because I need to be home early to help my child with homework. So healthy boundaries is being able to say no without guilt, to value your own opinion, to appropriately share personal information, to communicate your wants and needs, not compromising your value, accepting or weighing in on the decisions of others, and choosing who to let in and who to keep out. But if you have rigid or porous boundaries, then it becomes very hard to maintain good mental health. For example, with porous boundaries, you struggle to say no. Can we go for this function this weekend? Yes. Can you do this work for porous boundaries? Rigid boundaries means that you are very, very it's very hard for you to give in to the ideas of others. You keep everyone out. So you are so fenced, and that also is not a good way when it comes to putting up boundaries, because then that way you become very detached, you avoid close relationships, you do not ask for help, and you basically keep people away. So if you want to maintain good mental health, then look at what we call healthy boundaries. I will be sharing these slides so you will be able to read further on the different types of personal boundaries. Make time for relationships, whether it is your partner, it is your friends, it is family. Schedule regular date nights, for example, with your partner. Spend time with friends. Go to church meetings. Go for those conferences where they have, for couples or for children, like what we were shown at the beginning of the slides, what Steve was showing, like for your children, let them go for those bonding opportunities. Even you, as you also go for bonding opportunities with your significant other, it is important. And I believe that we also do have those kind of spaces. So create time for friends and families. Make time for those relationships. This is where you're getting your social capital. Seek professional help when needed. If you're unable to cope with the stress you're experiencing, with the anxiety you're experiencing, you suddenly realize you're dipping into depression, then asking for help, even when you are a man, is not a sign of weakness. It simply shows that you really know who you are and what you want to achieve in life. So we will find that most fathers or most male partners may try to cope by themselves by whatever they're experiencing. They're going through so many stressors. Sometimes you're a single dad, you're taking care of children, you're overwhelmed, but you feel I have to get my act together, so I will not ask for help. You will find yourself spiraling. And by the time you're seeking for help, it will be because your body has given in either mentally or physically. So seek professional help when needed. Again, practical strategies now holistically for raising healthy families is about connecting. Connect with your children, even as your parents. Spend quality time with them. There is what we call open communication, taking turns when you're talking with your children, allow them to talk and then you talk, then tune into their world. If you want to listen to BBC, then you must set that particular frequency. So you must tune into your child's world. Why is this teenager so focused on having a boyfriend or girlfriend? Why are they so focused on wanting to spend time with their peers? You must tune in into their world. And how do you do that? Is by having communication with them, and then talk more with your child, spend more time with them. Number two, manage technology wisely. Create boundaries. Let us agree that during dinner, no one is going to be on their phone. Let us agree that on this particular time of the day, no one is going to be on their gadget. Now, if you're setting rules for your children, you must role model the right kind of behavior. Children see what you do, they do not listen to what you're telling them. So if you're talking about not having gadgets and then you're there on your phone throughout, then that loses meaning. So manage technology wisely by role modeling the right kind of behavior. Limit your own screen time. Engage in screen-free activities with your children as a parent. What can you do? You can play board games, you can go out for a walk, you can just talk about how you grew up. Learn from them how it is for them growing up in this particular generation. It's a very different kind of a ball game for them. So creating time and having screen-free activities with your children is very, very necessary, because not only will it help with their mental health, it will also help with their physical health. If they're always seated with their gadgets, they get into things like obesity, they also get into having eye problems, they also get into issues with brain development, especially for the younger ones. They also get to be socially awkward. Why? Because they're always relating with gadgets instead of relating with people. So spend time away from the screen with your children. Prioritize mental and emotional health. If your toddler has a meltdown, it is okay for them to feel that way, but talk about that emotion after that. If your child throws themselves down on the supermarket floor demanding you buy something, it is okay for them to have that meltdown. You do not have to buy that particular gadget they want, but talk about that emotion they are experiencing. Things like stress management, teach them the techniques of stress management. How do I manage stress? If I'm going through a very stressful period in school, I'm being bullied or I'm being forced by my peers to do things I don't want to do, how do I manage that stress? Role model the right kind of behavior, teach them stress management techniques. Signs of distress, if you notice them in your children, advise them that they can seek help from you and seek help when it is early, meaning that you as a parent, you must create what we call a psychologically safe space for your child to come and talk to you. And knowing that daddy and mommy are not going to judge me. I may have done the wrong thing, but I can go and talk with daddy or with mommy about it, and I will not be judged. I will be helped, and they will listen to me. Encouraging healthy lifestyles, things like physical activity, what they're eating, supporting their education, being involved in what their career choices, being involved in what they want as individuals. Most of us have been trying to live our dreams through our children. I wanted to become a pilot. Something happened. Maybe my parents were not able to pay for me. But because I am in a position to pay for my child, they must become pilots. So your child is looking to be a musician, is looking to be a content creator, is looking to be doing something entirely surprising, but you force your own careers or your own unfinished dreams on them. In as much as you support in education and lifelong learning, then find out what it is that they want to do and support them in that way. Let them stay engaged, encourage them towards things like school, when they have camps, when they have those things that the churches or the mosques have, the programs they run over the school holidays, encourage your children to participate. Teach them responsibility and social awareness. Be the person who, when you're driving out of the estate, will greet the guard, ask the guard, how are you? How was your day? Let your children learn that kind of behavior. Let them be people who do not look down on other people because of their social status, but teach them responsibility and social awareness. Things like meal planning, chores, decision making, and also be the parent who is able to balance or to harmonize or integrate work and family life. And then also foster love and resilience. Resilience meaning that you as a family in your parenting or in your day-to-day life, you could suffer a setback. It could be some sort of loss. It could be a financial loss. It could be death. It could be disappointment within the family circles, but teach your children the ability to bounce back. That yes, we've gone through this space, but we will slowly bounce back as a family. What self-care regimen can parents look at? Number one, carve out a few minutes for yourself. Take some time out for yourself. Take yourself out for a drink. Go to Java, go to wherever at cafe and just take a smoothie by yourself. Check in with yourself when you can. Ask yourself, score yourself, how am I doing as a parent? And even as you score yourself, then ask yourself, what could I be what could be the negative aspect that I could be suffering from as a result of my parenting? Am I suffering from burnout? Have I become a harsh parent? Am I fair in the way I deal with my children? Try and give yourself a rate, score yourself on some sort of scorecard and ask yourself, how am I managing as a parent? Ask for support. We've already talked about that. If you need mental health treatment, do not put it off. Be able to recognize the symptoms of poor mental health. I'm not sleeping well, or I'm sleeping too much. I'm moody, I'm irritable, I get angry fast, I'm turning to substances to cope, I am not present at work, I go there, or I'm sending messages and telling my boss I'm not able to come in today, so I'm absent from work most of the time. I'm in a place where I am simply not wanting to be anywhere near people. I just want to stay in bed, cover myself with a blanket, and switch off the lights. Am I experiencing symptoms of depression? So if, for example, you are experiencing those kind of symptoms, then don't put off receiving mental health treatment. Don't overcommit, either at work or to family or to your relatives, to your partners. Don't overcommit. We talked about creating boundaries. Take some quality family time. It does not have to be an expensive holiday. It could be just what we are saying. Take time to spend with your children and play some board games or just be together and talk about really nothing, but take some quality family time. Then don't compare yourself to others. We've said there is no perfect parent or perfect parenting. So as we wind down, we've talked about resilience. How do I build resilience as a parent? Resilience, in simple words, is that bounce back ability, having the ability to bounce back. I've gone through a crisis. I've gone through one, two, three, but I need to bounce back and come back even better. So, how do you build resilience? Is by developing a growth mindset. You're not the kind of parent who dwells on past mistakes. We normally say that with the first child, you may have made very many mistakes because it was kind of trial and error. You are parenting primarily on what you knew from your own ways of being parented. But now, with maybe the second born, you're a little bit lenient because you have learned. So you have grown. Develop a growth mindset. Do not dwell on how you beat up your first child. You are very strict with them and all that, but develop a growth mindset. Then practice self care or healthy habits, like we've mentioned. Embrace challenges in parenting. Let them be learning opportunities. If you're parenting and you feel that you're not being the best version of yourself, then we've said that there's so many ways where you can learn better parenting. We say that the beginning, it is a skill that can be worked on. Maybe you can join a parenting support group, or where other parents sharing ideas on how they're parenting, and learn how to be a better version. Build strong relationship support system, develop meaning and purpose as a parent. And that's the side of spirituality which we talk about. Developing meaning and purpose. What is my role in life? What am I doing here in life? Even as you parent, what do you want to achieve? And then practice gratitude. Don't be the kind of person who's always telling your children, oh, I wish you could have this. I'm sorry, I'm not able to provide this for you. Of course, in a measure, you could tell them that, but be more about, I'm so happy we have this one-roomed house. I'm so happy that you children get to go to school. I'm so glad you get to have school. You have shoes, you have books, you're able to pay the school fees. So be the person or the parent who sees the glass as half full, not always seeing it as half empty, and then take breaks when needed. Parenting can be a whole challenge, and sometimes you wonder, why in the world did I even give birth to these children? And then again, you feel so guilty because you'll be asking yourself, am I saying I don't want to have these children? But we are saying that all that could happen for a parent. So take breaks when needed. When you realize you're getting to a place where you start questioning your ability as a parent, or you start questioning your desire to even parent, then you can take a break. Maybe go for a walk, maybe take yourself some 2, 3 days away from the home, and then go rejuvenate and then come back and continue to parent. So, at what point should you seek professional help? If you're constantly emotionally exhausted, if you feel numb, you feel detached from your children or from your partner, you feel very hopeless, if you have trouble sleeping or concentrating, if you find yourself isolating or withdrawing from others, if suddenly you find yourself using drugs and substances to cope, if you have frequent thoughts of, I can't do this anymore, whose children are these? If you have thoughts of self-harm, of suicide, then you need to seek professional help. Remember, on a one-off, you could be feeling this way at any point in time, but if it becomes something that you feel most of the time or almost all the time, then you need to seek professional help. This final slide is something that you can use to help self-screen for the status of your mental health. If you scan that QR code, it will generate for you about 5 assessments: one for depression, one for anxiety, one for alcohol use disorder, one for to get are not telling you that yes, you are depressed. They are simply pointers. It's the way you can be using a blood pressure monitor, which when you take your reading today, it could be high, but that does not mean you directly go to the hospital. But if you take your reading tomorrow and it looks okay, then you can say, maybe I was just having a bad day, a bit of stress. So it is the same thing with these tools. If you screen yourself today and see your depressive levels, I need to be an inpatient in a mental health facility, screen yourself again tomorrow, maybe it will have changed. But if it becomes consistent, then we have left a number there for you to call, and you will get the right kind of help. And with that, I would like to hand it back to Steve for any queries. I will be sharing the slides and then you can go through them at an individual level. Over to you, Steve.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that facilitation. We are grateful. And thank you for confirming that you'll be sharing the slides with us. Um, so if you are here and you'd love to get these slides, the easiest approach would be to chat us through our number that was shared there. Alternatively, you can just join our parents groups. Our parents groups are muted, so no one talks there. It's just for receiving this information so that there is no a lot of communication from everyone. So that if your time allows and it's a topic that is close to your heart, you want to get more, you just join. All right, let's go to questions. And we want to hear voices. No one has been talking. So if you have a question, this is what you want to do in a coordinated way. You raise up your hand, I give you a chance, and we want to make the question very specific, direct to the point. So we want to open it up for the first round of questions. Anyone going first? Any question, any comment? You raise up your hand, virtual hand there, we'll see. Thank you, Joelo Kitui. You can unmute and go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, this is Joel.
Yes, Joel.
Yes, I'm a parent and I'm really worried about the presenter mentioned something about the technology. I'm really worried about the technology because I have young girls and for real we can't get them off the internet and there's nothing we can do. So how do we really regulate them? Do I like put trackers on their phones or what? I'm a young parent, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Are they teens or preteens or how old are they?
They're teens.
Okay.
15, the oldest 15, 15 below.
Okay. Thank you. Let's pick a few more questions so that our facilitator can respond. Any other question? Yes, Julian, go ahead. And then Jade. Julian, you can unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So mine is also a question on the same. Today I had a case of a child who attempted suicide because the father took away his phone, her phone from three students. I'm trying to talk to the student just from the hostel. He had taken poison and was taken to the hostel and just discharged and back to school, and I'm handling her. I just really don't know how best to go, but she tells me that the phone was taken away.
Sorry
Hello?
for that. Sorry for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the phone was taken away from her by the father without her permission, and she hates the father so much she doesn't even see the need for life, etc. Maybe just encouraging them that if we are to pick the phone, we have to talk to them. But I have a case of a child who tried to commit suicide because the phone is taken away from her. Just help me on how best to handle it. I had the first session today. We are still continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. I'm sorry for that. Let's take from Jade.
Yeah, thank you so much for the great presentation. I think mine follows the question of the previous speaker on there's an increased rise on teens committing suicide or attempting suicide. How do you as a parent support? How do you as a parent assess mental health issues of teens? Yeah, I think that's the question.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Jade. Ibrahim, then Sylvia.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ibrahim. I live with schizophrenia, and one thing I love about the session is the way the presenter has been able to bring out the challenges we people living with various mental health conditions go through. And perhaps one thing I would want to learn about myself, even as I look forward to becoming a parent, is the issue of the traumas that we went through. I love the fact that he spoke about overcompensating, whereby I I was brought up in poverty. I went through a lot of traumas, and therefore, even when I have somebody who is in need, I tend to give so much, and I'm left with very little. So I'm left wondering, therefore, right now, as I'm preparing to become a parent, will that therefore be able to affect my future? Because as we speak, I tend to uh, become unable to cope with this self-love thing. That is one thing I would want to love. I want to love to hear from our speaker. How do we manage the issues of neglect, especially neglect of self, in a need to be able to please the other party? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's interesting. The questions are around teams and that. Okay. And I was sharing something intentionally on the screen. By the way, let me mention it here while all of us are still here. That as our facilitators, response to the questions on next week Thursday, we are again hosting Dr. Stanley Mokolwe, who will also be talking to a large extent on your handling conflicts with your teens or preteens. So the link is the same one you've used today. So if you want to mark date for that meeting, it's the same Zoom link you've used today that we'll be using most of the time for our meetings. So let me go to Sylvia, then I invite our facilitator to respond to that first round of questions. Sylvia.
Thank you so much for great session. My question is still on teenagers. I think discipline, we have talked so much on how to discipline them, but sometimes I don't know how practical we can make it. I have a 10-year-old. She's the last of four, but a girl, and she's very emotional and hysterical. So if she wants something, she wants it by force, by force, by force, and she can run you for more than an hour. If you try beating, you worsen the situation, she would pack and say she's going to sleep at the neighbors. I do not know, because I the first two I caned properly and they did well. Now this one you can't touch, and you can't tell her no, and you can't. How really do we go about all these things? And yeah, so she's the type who threaten you and tell you how you're a bad parent, and tell you everything. And if you tell her, I've just paid your fees, bought this, I didn't ask you, and it's just I do not know what to do anymore. Like today, she forgot her homework in school, which is her fault, not mine. Now she was insisting at 5 that I send the brother to go pick that homework today, that she must do that homework today. Yes, I told her, you have made a mistake, you will do it in the morning. She said, no, it has to be done today. So for over 1 hour, we had highs and lows. I locked myself, and I think I just escaped a little to cool my head. So how do you deal with this generation? To be sincere, it's not easy.
I hear you. That's your child, right?
Yes, last child.
All right. You reminded me in the course of mentorship, we go to schools for mentorship, and just before our facilitator picks it up. So one day I'm doing mentorship in this school, and I was handling the grade 5 thereabout. And this young man decides to start making noise for everyone. And it's good the teachers were there. So I insist, hey, young man, that's the third time you're making noise, and I'm calling you out. So could you stand up and tell everybody why you're making noise? And this young man stands up very responsibly and looks at me. They're in a class of around 45 people and tells me that, you know what? You don't know who my father is. There's nothing you can do to me. You don't know who I am. And I know my rights and I will continue making noise. So the teachers, it's good the teachers were there. So the teachers picked the young man out, and later on I followed up. And the teacher told me, this one, the parents are big people. There's nothing we can do to the child. But we have to survive with the situation because we can't chase the child away. But we are managing the situation because the parents are big people who have left the responsibility of raising their children to the household because they are too busy looking for money. I thought of just sharing. You just reminded me of an experience I've had in the course of mentorship. Victoria, sorry, Rika, you can respond to the first round of questions.
All right, I hope I've gotten them all. And I would like to say that sometimes we also don't have all the answers, but we will attempt
Mm.
and share what would be helpful, even as we also learn along the way. So when it comes to the issue of technology, it's a very, very tricky thing. I think it is either Australia, I could be wrong on which country decided that children in this country, I think below 16, are not going to start getting those social media accounts. I think TikTok and the rest. So what do the teenagers do? They go and buy masks which look old. You know that you can buy a mask and now cover your actual face. And then now when the phone is asking you for your identification, they cover themselves and they look now beyond 16 years. So what I'm saying is these teenagers have ways of beating technology. So we will tell parents, put in the what we call them, the controls. We'll tell the monitor, try see what they are watching. But what I say as, and this is a personal opinion and probably maybe what has helped most parents, is you must have a relationship with your child. Number one, you must be in a place where you're able to communicate with your child. And right from the onset, when they are born, if you do not create that bond, then at teenage, it becomes very hard for them to listen to you. But if growing up 3 years, you're there with them, talking with them, playing with them, 5 years, seven, in teenage, excuse me, they become your friends and you're able to talk to them and impart to them the values that you yourself are looking at. But when it comes now technology, number one, model the relationship you want to encourage. Most of us parents, even when we are eating, we go to the washroom, we have the phone in our hand. What are we modeling to the children? So if, for example, you want your child to abstain or to keep away from the gadget, then you yourself, you must speak the right kind of message. So model the relationship you want to encourage. Number two, be aware and involved with what your teens are engaging in. Sometimes you may tell them, get off the phone. I don't know why you're playing that computer game. And sometimes it is something that is it's a learning activity. So you as a parent, now remember back to communication, talk to your teen and ask them, can I sit down with you and watch whatever it is you're watching on your iPad? Can I play with you that computer game? Sometimes you tell them what you're watching is very violent. It's going to pollute your mind, but we do not have the facts. Remember, these young people are very learned. They have the facts on their on the fingertips. They are the digital natives. They're the ones who are able to go into the internet and search, and they're able to tell you that, Mom, what you're telling me is actually not factual. So be aware and involved with what they are engaging in. Talk to your children. Create a psychologically safe space such that you can talk to your child about pornography. You can talk to them about things like, cyberbullying or sexting on the internet. Let them be in a position where they can open up to you. So talk to them. And it goes back to what we said about taking turns, tuning in, and being in a position where you talk more with your child. Set appropriate limits and begin early. Allow yourself to make the rules. At what point do we buy a gadget for this child? I know some parents who have said, we are not going to buy your phone until you clear fourth form. And the child is okay. And they're waiting for that time when they can be bought for the phone. If they have assignments, they can use the family computer. So set appropriate limits and also begin early. Then explore what is the relationship between teens and technology, which is a very important and vital key for us as parents to understand. Now, when they are on their gadgets, sometimes it is to escape their reality. So what is their reality of that particular home? Could it be parents who are always bickering, parents who are always judging them? Sometimes they go to their gadgets to escape what is their reality, a temporary escape. Sometimes it creates for them a sense of connection. They don't feel connected to the parents. The parents don't listen to them. They're always judging them. They're always pointing out their faults. Your hair is too long. I don't know why you're wearing makeup. So they're always feeling judged. So what do? They go to some place where they have a sense of connection. Then sometimes for them, it's a place where they can get some challenges. So ask them, understand, what are you into when you're on your gadget? What do you like best about this? What would you like me to understand about this? And then if they are perennially now hooked to the gadgets, then you may need to seek help. If it comes to a place where you need to take the gadgets away, then again, go back to authoritative parenting. Agree with them. You may not have your gadget because 1, 2, 3, you broke the curfew, so I'm going to take your gadget away. But after maybe 1, 2, 3 days, I will give it back to them and let them sign that sort of a contract. So I don't know if that is helpful. Maybe at some point we can also do something on teens and parenting in the digital age, where we can talk more about the influence of technology on parenting. The other question I saw is teens attempting suicide. How do you assess the mental health of teens? Now, for those of us parenting teenagers, sometimes it is very confusing. You're asking yourself, is this child having a mental health issue or is it just hormonal? Because teens tend to look like they have mental health challenges all the time. Yet we say they're in a space where they're trying to carve out their own identity. But how do you assess mental health of teens? Now, remember, suicide is usually as a result of clinical depression, which has gone undiagnosed. So for you to understand suicide, you must understand depression. Once in a while, it is impulsive. Maybe you took away the gadget like that lady has mentioned, and because you took away my gadget, I am so angry, I am going to do something that hurts you. And they do not realize that they're taking out to something, they're reacting to something, but in a permanent way. So it is important to understand then depression. How does a depressed teen show up? Sometimes they're not eating, sometimes they are overeating, sometimes they don't want to get out of bed, they become moody, they become irritable, and they may start coping with substances, they may become very secretive. You see there's a change in behavior. So your teen comes in, they look okay. Sometimes they actually look very hyper, but maybe it is because they're experiencing substances to cope with whatever it is that they are experiencing. If they're in school, and of course they should be in school as teenagers, there could be a change in their academic levels. Maybe someone who's performing very well, suddenly they are not performing as well. They may become defiant, behavior change with the teachers, even with you as a parent, they answer you back. But remember, there's a very thin line between normal teen behavior because of the hormones and mental health challenges. So it is important, if you as a parent are not able to separate the two, then you bring the child to a mental health facility for a proper assessment. So I hope that answers the issue of suicide. The lady who is dealing with a suicidal child, it is okay for you to reach out to us directly as Chiromo, and we can have a conversation. Then maybe we can assist you in managing the child. Not maybe by seeing them because you're the one seeing them, but just giving our 2 cents on how you can manage them, and we can, help you with the whole process. Then I see the other question was parents who may be having mental health issues. And I think I want to applaud the person who is talked and say that they have been living with schizophrenia. And that for me is a really big thing to see someone talking about it openly, because there's so much stigma surrounding mental health. So for someone to come out there and say, I am living with this mental health condition, for me, that is really something that we need to applaud. And already it shows that you have accepted your situation and you're ready to parent from whatever situation it is. So how do you go through trauma? How do you go through things like overgiving, things like people pleasing? It is by creating the boundaries that we have already mentioned. Number one, if you're living with a mental health condition as a parent or as an individual, once you know your diagnosis, if you're supposed to take medication, you take your medication. If you're supposed to see a psychiatrist and a psychologist, maybe once, twice a month, or once, or whatever time you're supposed to see them, you do that. Then you should be able to live a very normal life as normal as the next person. How do you manage things? If you grow up in poverty and you find yourself always now wanting to give, then you need to go into therapy to explore, how do I create boundaries? Because in as much as I have learned, yes, there are healthy boundaries, there are porous boundaries, and there are rigid boundaries. How do I set the healthy boundaries so that I'm able to overcome the traumas of my past? Otherwise, I will be parenting as a parent with intergenerational trauma. And what will I do? I will pass on that trauma to my children, and they will pass it on to their children. So it will become something that is not broken until you yourself break it. There was one more question, Steve. I'm not sure I remember. Oh, it was the one with the girl who is very, I think she said her name is Sylvia, with a child who is very, is it, she said she's emotional, she's hysterical. If you beat her, it worsens. I cannot tell her no. I think, Sylvia, the child has very wisely learned you. And the child, once they learn you, then they become very manipulative. They have known, I can push these goals, I can push boundaries, I can tell mommy what I want to tell her, and she can do what I want her to do. So to manage an emotional, defiant, and what I'm seeing could be a manipulative child, is for you to stay very calm and avoid the power struggle. You keep, for example, if you're talking to her, you keep your voice low. This is where we're talking about mindfulness, taking a deep breath, speaking in a quiet but firm tone. Avoid arguing. Do not allow the child to draw you into the argument. Then you state the limits. Say what must happen, and that's it. Do not over explain yourself. Stop the manipulation cycle. Do not react, because what happens when you as a parent react emotionally, it teaches this little child that drama actually works. So I'm going to create so much drama, mommy will have to react to the drama. But if you stick to the rule you set and you said this is what is going to happen, then you hold that line. Do not try to defend or explain your choices. You ignore that bit. And then teach the child new skills. Help the child say what they're feeling instead of acting out what it is they're feeling. And then give them safe choices. Tell them you need to choose between, for example, two acceptable options. You either do one or you either do two, and then you enforce. At this point in time, this child is a child that you can enforce rules. The beating may not work because you say that when you beat her, it becomes worse. So she's also now learned that she can manipulate you, like we are saying, with her emotions. And she's knowing that once she acts up and she becomes very manipulative, then you're going to have some sort of reaction. It is back to you being an authoritative parent. It's not too late to start, but if you are having challenges, Sylvia, at a personal level, you can always get my number and I can refer you to a child psychologist who can help you with managing that particular child. I heard you say that with the first two, you canned them and it worked. It's like we said, we have children with different temperaments. So it is important to have your child assessed to see, is there something more that could be happening beyond what you are seeing or what the child is presenting. So Sylvia, if that's okay with you, you can have my number from Steve, and then you can reach out to me at a personal level. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you so much. Let me just read some questions there in the chat box, but let me start with some 3 comments. So there's a comment there from Lillian. My son is on school suspension because of being in the company of banned users. He said he doesn't use it, but confessed to vape use. He's been through counseling, but I'm wondering how to handle him since he has now gone mute on both me and his father. He's in Form 4 and won't revise as we await communication from school on when to report back to school. Sorry, Lilia. The other comment here is, yes, the other comment is there from Joshua. The character development parents are going through with raising Gen Z and especially Gen Alpha kids, it's not easy. But we need to be present for the kids, intentionally create time to be present. We also need to go back to the original manual, the Bible. We need to also be brief with fellow parents. And I think the last comment before I read the questions is, my 13-year-old son, this is from Lois, my 13-year-old son looks like he's falling into depression. I walked away from home for the past 2 years. And I think that affected him. He rarely talks, spends the whole day on gadgets, doesn't bathe. It's a struggle to go to school. Have I failed as a parent? Have I failed as a parent? And yet I was trying to fend for my children. Yeah, I think this is a reality that we face every day. We get a lot of parents asking us that. But I was out on a genuine mission, looking for money because if I stayed here, they would not go to school. But now that comes with a cost. All right, let me go to the questions there. So the first question is, uh, yes, from Ali. Kindly advise on how to help a teen who is visibly depressed but has refused intervention. A teen who is visibly depressed, you can see it, but has refused intervention. Then there's a question here that is away from teens. Oh yeah, still on a teen, Jacqueline. How do you handle a teen who is always worried excessively about exams, yet their performance? Worried but performing. Maria says, can the facilitator tell us how to recognize when a partner is bleeding on the other parent? Let me go again. Can she tell us how to recognize when a partner is bleeding on the other parent? How do they behave towards the other parent? Uh, let me read the last one. How can a single mother have confidence in raising their kids, especially teenager, and don't feel she's failing on her responsibility? Yeah, parenting with all this drama of teenagers that we're talking about, without feeling like you're a failure as a parent. I don't know whether you picked them, Rika.
Thank you, Steve. I think I can start with the one for I think a child who is depressed but
Mhm.
is
Mm,
refusing therapy, is refusing help.
yes.
Um, the very difficult patients to work with are the ones who do not realize that they have a problem. You on the outside can see as a parent that this child is depressed or this child is using substances, but they refuse help for whatever reason. So if you can get someone who is close to this teen, someone that you've noticed they're close to in the family, maybe an uncle, maybe a grandparent, maybe an aunt, or maybe another cousin who is able to, or who has favor with your child, then you could let them sit down with them to listen without attempting to fix the problem, just to listen what is going on. Then instead of forcing a clinical label, for example, like depression, this to a teenager will cause a very, very defensive reaction because you're telling me you're telling me I'm crazy in their own words. They'll even say you're telling me I'm mad. I'm not. So instead of labeling, you just focus on the specific symptoms you're noticing. I see your sleep patterns have changed. I see you're not eating well. I see sometimes you're seated staring into space and not talking to anybody. So do not label those symptoms into you look depressed. Just simply say what you have noticed. Then maybe ask them, for very small things that they can do. Let us eat a meal together. Let us take a walk together. Or, for example, if they completely reject an in-person therapist, then you can also now ask them to do the online therapies. We have credible websites where they have therapists online and the child can log in, of course, with yourself because of consent, then they can be helped online. Then if, for example, they are worried that if I talk to somebody, they're going to talk about my issues, then be in a place where you assure them about confidentiality. So encourage your teen to join you for simple activities. If you're a father and, for example, you're going to the garage, then encourage your teenager to go with you. Let's go to the garage. And in that way, you will have informal conversations, which are usually more helpful than telling your teenager, sit down, we need to talk. Their defenses go up very fast. So if they complete refuse help from then you need to give them control. Ask them, what do you want to do? Do you want to pick an online therapist? Do you want to go to a particular institution? Maybe they don't want to come to institution A. Do they prefer to go to institution B? But in all these, show them support. Be present. Let them know that you are with them in whatever it is that they are experiencing. And even for you to ask them if you could be the source of depression, what specifically have you done you are willing to change? Of course, again, within reason. Because sometimes it could be your parenting style. It could be you as a parent who is causing the depression. So be at a place where you can get off from your high horse as a parent and tell your child, for sure, I made a mistake and I do apologize. Can we talk about it? And that way the child will feel, oh, my mom or dad can actually apologize. Because some of us parents are very stiff because of how we were parented. We feel I cannot apologize to my child. How? So if you come down and apologize to them and you have a conversation, you may actually rescue your child from things which are worse than not just depression, where they may come to a place where they're thinking suicide. I hope that helps. There's a parent who was asking, am I a failure? And I think I would want to tell the parent that in as much as you went looking for finances to support the family, to support the child, then you need to move away from that guilt trip to tell yourself that you did what you could as a parent. Because if you had stayed home, then definitely the children would not have gone to school. So sometimes sitting down with your children and taking them through the facts that I must have gone to work so that I am able to provide. So it is important that they also understand the dynamics. So as a parent, try and get over that guilt by doing what we said, giving yourself some positive self-talk. I think there's someone who is also talked about being a single mom and not failing in taking care of the children. We need to normalize, especially in this time and age, that a parent can be parenting alone, not because they chose to, but because life happened. You could be a father, you're alone with the children. You could be a mother, you're alone with the children. Your partner could have disappeared, they could have died. You could be in a blended family where you remarried or whatever. So, as a single mom and you're raising especially a boy child, what you need to factor in is having a male person, a male figure who can be a role model to your son. And this could be simply your brother, it could be an uncle, it could be even someone from church who is, of course, get it right. Someone who has the right kind of values, even within the church, who is able to be a role model to this child, to this boy. And what do? Maybe they just go for a drive together. Maybe when they go for camping, he's there to stand with him. So it's not basically because you're a single mom, you cannot bring out, good characters in terms of the boy. If you look at the Bible, I think Timothy was not raised by both parents. He was raised up by a mother, if you read about Timothy. And he turned out well. So it is good for you as a single parent then to ask yourself, who can be a role model to my children, to my boys, and then take them out there to walk with them and to help them become men of what later on in life. I'm not sure if there was another question, Steve.
There was one on how to, signs that one parent is bleeding on the other. There's a question like that.
Yes, I think I did mention something. And I think it's usually from a quote that if you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who did not hurt you. This is simply a metaphor about unhealed emotional trauma. It means that if you as a partner have past pain that you've not dealt with, then you may find that you keep hurting people who are innocent in your life. For example, you may find yourself as the partner always overreacting. You get very angry or upset over small or very minor mistakes. Or sometimes you're very defensive. You assume people are attacking you and they're just talking. So you find that they say something and you get very triggered. You might find yourself as a partner pushing away love because you find yourself pulling back or rejecting people who try to care for you. So your partner becomes bewildered. How does this person want to be loved? Or you may become very suspicious. People are having good intentions towards you. Your wife is having good intentions, your husband, but you become very doubtful about their intentions. Or you may also find yourself now blaming innocent people. You take out your bad moods or stress from past events on people who are maybe in your family or co-workers. So that is simply a metaphor. But if you have not healed from past emotional trauma, and trauma could be you grew up in a place where there was a lot of domestic violence, you grew up in a place where your parents were not very kind on words, you grew up in a place where no one cared about you, you had to find your way in life when you were very young. So when you grow up, you become these people who are very controlling. You find yourself a very controlling partner, even to your spouse. So these could be signs of unresolved pain, but if you're able to, you can do therapy to help you heal from things that are still in your space, even as an adult, but things that you experienced or traumatic experiences that you went through growing up. I think that's just about it, Steve.
All right, thank you. Comment here. Thank you for the information session. I almost lost it in the last 1 week handling an onset of teenage defiant behavior, refusal to go back to the same school, and unrealistic new demands from two Gen Alphas. I took a break over the weekend as they visited the uncle, and yesterday we had some meaningful engagement. More grace to all parents. Okay, there's a question here just before we close. There's a parent who is asking, uh, how do I handle my teenage girl who is bipolar? I just discovered that after taking her to hospital for checkup last week, it's really draining me as a single mom. Maybe you want to respond to that?
Sorry, I was talking with the microphone off. Well, bipolar is a mood disorder where you find that the child could be having different mood swings. I don't know whether it was diagnosed as bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, but they have similarities because the person who has been diagnosed will cycle between highs and lows. So this could disrupt a lot of relationships. It could disrupt, her at school or with the family, or maybe just basically her general life. So, how do you help her? It is simply, you've already done what you can. You've already helped her in the first place by taking her to hospital and she's gotten a diagnosis. So, it is to work with her. Teenagers do not like labels. And that is why they've come up with something, I forget the name that they are calling, which for them having bipolar or having ADHD, it is just that my brain is wired differently from what you people call the normal brain. So they do not want those labels. So, number one, do not call her bipolar. It is simply talking about the symptoms. You've already gotten her help and you've gotten her the treatment. So, how do you help her? Is by just creating that psychologically safe space. Has she taken her medication? Has she gone to the therapist? Has she seen the psychiatrist? And how is she managing? When she feels, for example, there's an attack, or how do I put it? She feels like she's getting to a depressed phase, being able to recognize those symptoms. But even for you as the mother, to inform yourself, to identify with the signs and symptoms of bipolar, how is it managed? How do I help my daughter to cope? It will be extreme mood swings at some point. And other times she's high, she's low. Sometimes she feels depressed. Sometimes she feels very bubbly, she wants to do a lot of activities. How do I manage all that? Arming yourself with that knowledge will help you also understand her better. But showing her that this is just normal, it is a normal diagnosis, for her not to feel that I'm exceptional, I'm different. And also holding her to accountability, not for her to use that diagnosis to maybe slack at school or not want to help with the house chores, to treat her as normal as any teenager who has been diagnosed, for example, with diabetes, because we have children who are diagnosed with diabetes. Then you will simply tell her, yes, it is this diagnosis, but it would have been the same case if you're diagnosed with something like diabetes, so you still have to carry your weight. I think that's pretty much how you'd handle it, but just making sure that she gets attended to as frequently as possible. That will help her also get to manage it better. The psychologist she's seen is very critical because most teenagers want to see psychologists they're able to identify with. So if you can get her someone that she feels she's relating to, that will help her also be able to open up with the challenges that she's going, so that she can know what could trigger me. If I'm in school, for example, if I have a quarrel with a girl or with a teacher, or I feel the teacher doesn't like me, might these trigger me? So she needs to understand the triggers and how do I manage them. That information, once you have it with her and speak openly about it, will be the right kind of support for your child. And even for you as a caregiver now, to also get supported. And how do you get supported? Is also by going for your own individual therapy, or by joining a support group where we have parents with children living with mental health challenges. Then you will feel, I'm not going through this alone. There are other parents who are experiencing the same. Steve, I think that would be what I would say to that particular question.
All right, thank you so much. Sylvia, we hear you. Another 13-year-old refuses to use toilet. He's everywhere. We hear you. And some of us can relate. So, is there anyone with a burning question? Maybe you asked a question and for some reason we have not responded to it. Anyone with a burning question to ask? All right. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, somebody's asking about oh, Aji. Aji, please go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for the session. It has been an eye-opener in so many areas. And it's good to know that, you're not alone. My question would be probably to the teenagers, what is it advisable to have a teenager maybe in boarding school? I don't know what the views are on that.
Okay. As we respond to that, I think Jacqueline, your hand is up. I don't know whether you want to respond to that or it's a question. But Ali is also asking, is there any support group for parents of teens with mental health challenges? Maybe that's open to all of us. If you're in any group that can be useful, especially for teens or parents with mental health challenges, somebody's asking in the group, we could be a blessing to her or him. Now, Jacqueline, please go ahead.
Sorry, the question about someone who is so much worried about exams, sometimes he doesn't sleep well when the exams are around the corner, yet he does well. So he's afraid like he could drop from position one. He has constantly been in position one. So he gets worried about losing the position so much until I feel like it's not too much.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know the question. So, Rika, those are two questions. A teenager who performs but is worried, and then the one that has just been asked about boarding schools. I don't know what your response would be.
Thank you, Steve. I think the question on a teenager who is doing well but is constantly anxious about losing that position, it could be the environment. People always telling him, oh, you're doing so well, you're always number one. The parents, maybe the expectations are always that he will be number one. I think maybe it's a conversation that they have around him. So he feels that I cannot disappoint them because that is what now has been put in his mind, that I must always be this sort of a person. If I go down, I will probably be I will look like a loser. So I think it's good for the parents to tell the child, it's okay for you to drop from being number one to go to number two, even number three. It is okay. Because life is not going to have him in number one at all times, right? Maybe at work, or he becomes a family person. He's going to fail one way or the other. That is a guarantee. So he needs to know he cannot have this anxiety for the rest of his life. He needs to actually fail so that he starts adapting, knowing that you can actually fail. And failure is not supposed to be a setback. It's simply a learning curve. It's a stepping stone for you to advance. So maybe have a conversation with him as a parent and see what have we as parents instilled in you such that you are so anxious about failure, about coming down to number 2 from number 1. What are you so scared of? Maybe he will tell you it is because of you, the expectations of my parents. You always expect me to be number 1. So if I go to number 2, then I will feel like I have failed you. And then you as parents, you can assure him that no, in fact, if you can come to a place where you're number 2 and number 3 or number 4, we are still okay with it. So that he learns early that you can actually fail in life. I think there's an important question there or an important comment. Someone who said that their child was not bedwetting in Form 1, but in Form 2 now they're bedwetting. I think that is a red flag, and the parent should find out what has happened. That is retrogression. And once a child retrogresses, it's usually a very red flag for a parent or for the caregiver to find out what has happened. This child was not bedwetting, now they're bedwetting. Something must have happened. And it brings us to the question of boarding school, which now this is a very personal thing because as a parent, it depends entirely on the specific child's emotional maturity and also things like the dynamics of the family. So as the parents, what do you want to do for your children? If your child goes to boarding too early, then again, it means that there'll be emotional distance between yourself and the child. If again they're too young, they could get into things like peer pressure and bullying. If again they're too young, you could have missed critical formative moments because you as a parent are the one who wants to instill particular values or also some there's a way you want your child to turn out. But if they're away from you for too long, then you may miss out on that. So you need to ask yourself, do I want to take my child to boarding? Does my child want to go? What is the opportunity cost? What are the risks? And once you have come up with the answers, then you can decide, let me take them to boarding school or let me have them go to a day school. Sometimes it's about the practicability of it, and other times it's about what really do I want to invest when it comes to my child's schooling. So that one has no definite answer. It simply goes back to the family dynamics and the emotional maturity of the child. I think that's winding up now, Steve.
Yes, thank you so much. That responds to all those questions. I hope there's no question we are leaving unanswered. But oh yes, Emma, as we come towards a close. Emma Mushoki, you can unmute.
Okay, for me, it's just to encourage the parent, Helen Wanjiku, who's talking about her daughter who's been diagnosed with bipolar. And allow me to be a bit vulnerable here. I am a mother to a young adult who was diagnosed with bipolar about 7 years ago. And one of the things that has made a difference is, first of all, coming to terms and accepting, and of course, having family therapy sessions, and also allowing also the other family members, whether it's the siblings, the other relatives, the workers, the nanny, the driver, or whoever else works around us, and even a few friends or neighbors. Of course, just as Dr. Rika said, there's so much stigma around mental illnesses. But one of the things I've discovered is when each and every member of the family, you do it based on, age-appropriate conversation. I'll give a case whereby early in the year, my son had an episode and it was so bad, he even attempted suicide. And my youngest child, who's 8 years old, observed and told me, Mom, today so-and-so was so rude. He banged doors on me and even on my brother. When my friends came over, he told us not to talk to him. So you see, by this time, the mood had really, the mood switch had already, it was so evident. And also, when it comes even to the workers, you just notice, the rage, the isolation becomes more evident. And I believe with the right support, with acceptance, with support within the family, and even just, observing the changes each and every time, maybe before an episode or maybe when they drop on their medications, it helps a lot in recovery and support. Of course, some of these illnesses, people live with them for a lifetime, but then knowing how to manage, how to support, and it makes a whole difference. So for me, Mommy, sending you hugs, and God bless us all in our parenting journey. Asante.
Thank you. Um, thank you so much. Thank you for that encouragement. Is there anybody who has a comment? And as we do that, there's something I've shared there on the screen. If you'd love to be a blessing to Life Ministry, we've been using their Zoom account. Feel free. If you want to make a contribution to support that, feel free. Meanwhile, anybody with a comment out of what we have talked about today? Before I invite our speaker to wrap it up, parting shot. Going once, anyone? Yes, limit.
Okay, maybe not a comment, but I would like to, first of all, really thank Rika. She always delivers. She's really good. I've listened to her many, many times, and she's really good. I would like to request if she can share some of the therapy links, online links that can be helpful for some of our family members who may want to access also. Kindly, maybe she can share through you, Steve. Then we can get them. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you. Any other? All right. Because when Rika comes, that will be the end of it all. Allow me just make again an announcement that on Thursday next week we are hosting Dr. Stanley Mukolwe, and the topic is processing conflicts with my teen or preteen. The link is the same one. The Zoom link is the same one you have used to join today. So you can just mark that on your calendar, same time, so that you can join and you can also invite others so that so that we're a blessing to each other. Let me invite Rika, your final words. And then after you're done, Jedida has not spoken. Jedida, you will make a comment and close with a word of prayer. Yes, Rika.
Thank you, Steve. You've been you've been an awesome host. So thank you for having us in this session. And for all the parents, I would just like to say that behind every young child who believes in himself is a parent who believed first. So even in your lowest moments, your child thinks that you are everything. Let them keep thinking that you are indeed everything. Have a blessed night, and thank you for the audience. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you so much, Rika. And there's a topic you have suggested there. Maybe I'll side chat you later on to see when that can come, when your schedule allows. A topic
Definitely.
on,
Thank you.
a topic around, I think, teens or preteens or something. I noted it.
Parenting in the digital space.
Oh, yes, parenting in the digital space. Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Steve.
I attended one of the sessions that was being facilitated by part of your team on that topic, and I can assure the parents here, it's something you'd not want to miss. All right. Before I invite Jedida, one of our facilitator was here. I'm not sure she's in. Joy, are you still in? You can say hi. Or since she dropped out. All right, Jedida. Jedida Mwende, are you there? Seems Jedida is far. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, poor network. A minute on my side. Okay, Jedida, we have seen that. So Jedida works very hard and very smart to ensure that we can access the speakers from Chiromo. So we don't take that for granted that we have somebody who has candid hope at heart and would always want to be part of what's happening. Thank you so much, dear parents, for joining. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And I would again want to invite a volunteer to pray for us. Somebody to grab that chance and speak a blessing to us. Somebody? Going on? Thank you, Lynette. Please go ahead.
Okay, let us pray. Father Lord, we are grateful for this evening. Thank you so much even for such an awesome, informative, educational, insightful session that we have had this evening. Indeed, as parents, we face a lot of challenges, and especially mothers, we struggle a lot with a lot of issues, multitasking and parenting. We do, Lord, and we commit ourselves to you this evening. We carry burdens, especially mothers who have had children go through sickness and born with congenital issues and special needs children. Lord, we have struggled and we really have gone through a lot of mental health crisis. And we wish sometimes someone would understand. But Father, this evening, we are grateful that we have received a lot of information that is that has opened our eyes and helps us to even want to step out for help. And we commit ourselves to you that, Lord, you'll even bring alongside our way people even to walk with us. We thank you for Rika, who has facilitated. We ask that you bless her. Thank you for Steve and his team who are always putting together these sessions. We pray, Lord, that you continue blessing them and above all, provide resources for them, provide resources for Life Ministry and the whole ministry for Candid Hope Ministry, even as they reach out to mentor the young ones. We thank you, Lord, and we bless you even for the night ahead of us, and we give you praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you,
Amen.
everybody, and have a good evening.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Night.
Good
Amen.
night.
Bye.
Amen. Good night.
Bye.
Amen.
Bye bye.
Amen. Good night.